So we are talking about Texas and Hurricane Beryl that came through there. So Hurricane Beryl kills 2, knocks out power to millions in Texas. Hurricane Beryl made landfall in the United States near the city of Houston, killing at least 2 people and knocking out power to millions. So let's get the details on that. After Hurricane Beryl made landfall in Texas near the city of Houston, strong winds and heavy rains flooded streets and toppled power lines. The 2 deaths occurred separately when trees fell on homes.
That tree limb right there could have been through the roof of our house instead of our shed. That one could have gone on our house instead of this way. So we'd just be grateful.
Over 1,300 flights have been canceled and key shipping ports closed. The storm already killed nearly a dozen people in the Caribbean. Yeah, so that is the update there. Or at least that was the nuts and bolts of what happened. So, and it wasn't just Texas that was affected too. Of course, it's a hurricane, and it turned into a tropical storm, then it turned into a tropical depression, but it's still a massive weather system that's going through the United States. So what's going on with it now? So this is both of these were from Al Jazeera. Beryl leaves trail of destruction as several U.S. states face flooding threat. Authorities say the storm could cause flash floods and tornadoes as it moves across large swaths of the United States. So where it's heading when it goes up through Texas, it's going up through Texarkana, and that's basically where Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana meet. And making a beeline through the middle of the country. So, and that's also the ass end of a tornado alley too. So in hurricanes, even tropical depressions, they'll still spawn tornadoes. So if you're in those areas, please, treat this just like it was a hurricane. Make sure you got batteries and water or the hand crank devices I was talking about the other day, flashlights and radios. Make sure you're prepared to get out of the path of severe weather, right? That could be spawned off this. So Beryl lashed the southern United States, leaving a trail of destruction across Texas and spurring authorities to warn of possible flash flooding in several other states. Yesterday morning, the National Hurricane Center said Beryl could bring flash flooding from the lower and mid-Mississippi Valley to the Great Lakes through today as it sweeps across the country. And like I said, tornadoes are also possible in parts of Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, they said. So Beryl made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane on Monday morning, bringing winds of around 130 kilometers per hour. That's 80 miles per hour for all you non-metric peoples, to the coastal town of Matagorda before losing power as it churned inland. Yeah. So that's the thing. You have like the pre-storm where like shit's going crazy, and then the storm makes landfall, and then it continues to churn, though although not as powerfully as it was when it was in open water. It is still dangerous. In the wake of that, there was, Texas is, I think Texas has its own power grid. Is that right? That's bad enough. So, it's even worse when the power company CenterPoint, I think, in Texas, is not on the ball with what, getting prepared for these storms. Because it's not like it was a hurricane that came out of a tornado that came out of nowhere. It was a hurricane. They had plenty of time. A friend of mine had a neighbor that had a tree fall on their house, and they were okay, but the house was done. I know, man. It's like them trees are double-edged swords, man. You like to keep those trees next to the house, get that nice, cheap shade, save a little bit on the AC during the summertime. But shit, when those fucking tornadoes and high winds come, those things turn into like fucking baseball bats, just beating the fuck out of everything. So the acting Texas governor, Acting Texas. Who's it? Wait a minute. Who's that? Where's Abbott? Oh, that's right. Rumor has it one should not mess with Texas. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. But this is the KHOU 11 out of Houston talking about acting Texas governor pledges to hold CenterPoint accountable for the Beryl preps. Let's watch if we can make those dreams come true for me and you. Do this, and we'll do this. Oop, hang on a second. Oh, technology, you fickle, fickle beast. There.
Team coverage for you, starting with the question, could CenterPoint have been better prepared?
Now, we first reported yesterday how the company did not stage mutual aid repair crews in Houston before Hurricane Beryl. Now, investigative reporter Jeremy Rogowski is learning more about their response and joins us live. Jeremy?
Well, the questions hovering over the 1.5 million powerless CenterPoint customers are these. Was the electricity provider slow out of the gate in its restoration efforts? And now, is it playing catch-up? Hours before Beryl battered the state, Texans were assured
CenterPoint is ready to go.
But we've since learned that, unlike in past hurricanes, CenterPoint did not position out-of-town crews in Houston before the storm, so they could immediately hit the ground once the hurricane moved through.
Outside help really has gotten out of the gate a half day late.
While they were not in Houston, they were in nearby locations.
Where were those nearby locations?
Crickets.
Jeremy, again, factual information that I can look into and get back to you on that.
And what about the number of outside workers CenterPoint requested and when? A spokesperson says pre-Beryl, the company initially asked for 2,500, but after Beryl hit, CenterPoint upped that request for a total of nearly 12,000.
Did CenterPoint underestimate the need for the amount of personnel to get this job done and done quickly?
Again, I think what the case was is we relied on information that we had at the time. And so we appropriately prepared for what we felt the event would be.
At a midday briefing, acting Governor Dan Patrick said the threat from Beryl was clear, and he'll request a full report of where outside crews were stationed and when they were asked to come in.
What do you pledge to do once the dust has settled to ensure that CenterPoint is held accountable?
Right now, Jeremy, if they made mistakes, we don't know if they did or not. If they made mistakes beforehand, then that will be addressed by the PUC. That's their job, and by the state legislature.
The PUC, of course, is the Public Utility Commission of Texas, which has regulatory oversight over CenterPoint. Meanwhile, listen to this. Just over the past 2 hours, CenterPoint has given 3 conflicting numbers as to how many mutual aid workers are actually in Houston. The manager of local government relations said 12,000 linemen are in the field. The vice president of regulatory policy said 7,500. And the director of communications and writing told us 5,300 outside workers. The real number, Mia, we just don't know.
We know you'll continue to look for those numbers, though. Jeremy Rogowski holding the powers that be accountable tonight. Thank you.
Good job. Good job, Mia, too. Good job, Houston, right? So that's the thing, right? And that's part of the crumbling infrastructure of America, right? One of the telltale signs of late stage capitalism, the working on the cheap, as it were, cutting corners and trying to get as middle, because you know what? They didn't want the overtime. They didn't want to give those people overtime. And it's every goddamn fucking emergency like that. You're going to see some of these places do shit like that, where they hold back. There's, well, we don't need that many people. It's not going to be that bad. And it's like you always want more people than you need in the field than less. I mean, I'm no coordinator for hurricane aftermath control or anything, but Jesus Christ, I think that's just kind of fucking common sense.